Good day everyone, I am teacher Nathalie and I will be your guide in sharpening skills and enhancing your minds in order to face the challenges here in Mathematics 9. Ready your self-learning modules, your paper, and your pen with you. For today's video, we will be able to study Module 4, Focus on Quadratic Inequalities. This module consists of 3 MELCs. Namely, illustrates quadratic inequalities, solve quadratic inequalities, solves problem involving quadratic inequalities. Let us start with MELC 7, illustrates quadratic inequalities. So, before we start, alamin natin kung alin dito sa mga given ang mga quadratic equations. So, our first example is x squared plus 7x plus 12 is equal to 0. So, kung babalikan natin yung definition ng quadratic equation ay nasa standard form na x squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. And kung mapapansin nyo, ito ay isang example ng quadratic equations. Sa pangalawang example, kung mapapansin nyo, gumamit siya ng greater than. So, ito ay hindi quadratic equations. Sa ating third example, gumamit siya ng less than. So, ito ay hindi quadratic equation. Samantalang sa fourth example, meron siyang quadratic term and may constant term, then gumamit siya ng equal sign. So, this considered as quadratic equation. Sa fourth example naman, hindi siya quadratic equation dahil gumamit siya ng less than or equal to. Samantalang ating sixth example, ito ay isang quadratic equation. Ang ating pang-pitong example, hindi siya quadratic dahil gumamit siya ng greater than or equal to. So, hindi siya kasama sa quadratic equations. At ang ating last example, ito ay isang quadratic equation kasi meron siyang equal sign. Kung papansin nyo, itong apat na na-encircle ay tinatawag na quadratic inequality. So, ano bang pagkakaiba ng quadratic equation sa quadratic inequality? So, let us differentiate. So, ano ba ang example ng quadratic inequality? So, pag sinabing quadratic inequality, we have x squared plus 7x plus 12 is less than 0. Samantalang sa quadratic equation, we have x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. So, ang kanilang similarity ay meron silang degree. Ano yung degree na yon? It is the highest exponent, which is 2. So, makikita natin dito sa quadratic term, mayroong degree of 2. Ano naman ang pagkakaiba nila? So, kitang-kita naman, their symbols. Pag sinabing quadratic inequality, we can use 4 different symbols, while in quadratic equation, gumagamit lang tayo ng equal sign. Ano ba yung mga iba't ibang klase ng mga signs na ginagamit sa quadratic inequality? So, isa-isahin natin itong mga nakalagay rito. So, first, the inequality symbols and their meaning, una dito yung is greater than. Okay? Next, we have is less than. Next, we have is greater than or equal to. So, ang pagkakaiba nito, meron siyang underscore dito sa baba ng greater than. Then, next, we have is less than or equal to. Ganon din siya dito sa is greater than or equal to. Underscore, pinagkaiba nila ni less than. And lastly, we have is not equal to. So, those are the inequality symbols used sa mga quadratic inequalities. So, kabaliktaran siya ng quadratic equations. Next, let's move to the parts na meron sa quadratic inequality and quadratic equations. So, we have same. Meron silang ax squared, bx, and c. So, namely, we have quadratic term for ax squared. For bx naman, tinatawag natin siyang linear term. And c is equal to constant term. So, same lang sila. Ang pinagkaiba lang nila is yung mga symbols. Now, let's define what is quadratic inequality. So, a quadratic inequality in one variable is an inequality that has a polynomial of degree 2 and can be written in any of the following forms. So, kung ang quadratic equation natin ay may isang standard form, samantalang ang quadratic inequality natin, we have 4. So, we have ax squared plus bx plus c is greater than 0. Rather, we have ax squared plus bx plus c is less than 0. We have ax squared plus bx plus c is greater than or equal to 0. And last, we have ax squared plus bx plus c is less than or equal to 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers, and a should not be equal to 0. Kasi kung nag-equal to 0 ang ating quadratic term, okay, automatic na magiging 0 na yan, then magre-result siya sa linear inequality. Okay, let's try a given activity. So let's try. Put a check mark if the following examples illustrate quadratic inequality. Put an X mark if it does not illustrate quadratic inequality. So on our first given, we have a squared minus 2a plus 5 is equal to 0. So ano sa tingin nyo? Ito ba ay quadratic inequality or not? Very good. Ito ay isang quadratic equation. So, hindi siya quadratic inequality. So, ito ay X mark. Second, we have 2y squared plus 5y minus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. Quadratic inequality ba ito or hindi? Very good. Ito ay isang quadratic inequality. So, check mark ang gagamitin natin. Next, we have m squared plus 2m plus 4 is less than or equal to negative 2. Ano sa tingin nyo? Ito ba ay quadratic inequality or not? Tumpak, ito ay isang quadratic inequality. Next, we have p squared minus 5p minus 6 is less than or equal to 0. Ito ba ay quadratic inequality o hindi? Magaling! Ito ay isang quadratic inequality. Next, we have s cubed minus 3s minus 7 is less than or equal to 0. Ano sa palagay niyo ang ating sagot? Magaling! Ito ay hindi quadratic inequality. Dahil kung makikita ninyo, ang highest degree ng ating term ay cube. Hindi siya square. Next, we have 5t minus 6 is less than or equal to 0. Tama, hindi siya quadratic inequality. Kahit na siya ay mayroong inequality symbol, kung titignan ng ating highest exponent, which is 1, ito lang ay tinatawag na linear inequality. Magaling! Nakuha nyo lahat ang tamang sagot. Next, determine whether each mathematical sentence is a quadratic inequality or not. Okay, number 1, we have x squared plus 5x plus 6 is greater than 0. Ito ba ay quadratic inequality or not? Nice! That is quadratic inequality. How about our second example? We have 2x squared minus 4x is equal to 1. This is quadratic inequality or not? Good job! That is not a quadratic inequality. Kasi ang ating symbol dito is an equals symbol. So ito ay isang quadratic equation. Proceed to our third example. We have quantity of 2x minus 3 multiplied to quantity x plus 2 is greater than 0. So kung papansin niyo, hindi pa siya nakalagay sa isang form ng isang quadratic inequality. So ang gagawin muna natin is i-apply natin yung tinatawag na FOIL method. So if we're going to multiply these two quantities, we have 2x times x, that is 2x squared, 2x times 2, that is 4x, we have negative 3 times x, we have negative 3x, and negative 3 times 2, that is negative 6. Then, copy lang natin yung inequality symbol, then yung 0. Then, simplifying this by adding the similar term, we have, so 2x squared plus x, paano ito nakuha? We have 4x minus 3x, that is x. Then, copy minus 6, and our symbol, then 0. So, nasa ano na siya? Form na siya ng quadratic inequality. So, kung titingnan natin, this is a quadratic inequality or not? Tama, this is a quadratic inequality. Next, our last example, we have 3x squared plus 18 is less than to 3 multiplied to quantity x squared minus 4x. So, simplify mo natin ito bago natin malaman kung ito ba ay quadratic inequality or not. So, let us solve. We have 3x squared plus 18 is less than to 3x squared. So, i-distribute na lang natin to. We have 3 times negative 4. So, we have negative 12, then x. So, next, simplifying this, we have 3x squared minus 3x squared. So, nilipat lang natin itong 3x squared sa left side. Then, plus 12x. So, nilipat din si negative 12 sa kabila. Then, plus 18 is less than to 0. So, by adding or combining the similar terms, we have 3x squared minus 3x squared. So, that is 0. So, may iwan na lang, we have 12x plus 18 is less than to 0. So, kung mapapansin nyo, this is a linear inequality. So, this is not a quadratic inequality. So, kung end of our MELC 7, let's proceed to our MELC 8, which is solve quadratic inequalities. Okay, let's start. To begin with, let's study yung tinatawag na interval notation o yung mga symbols na gagamitin natin na magiging part in solving quadratic inequalities. So, we have two types of symbols. We have the brackets and the parentheses. So, saan ba ginagamit itong brackets and parentheses? So, meron siyang definition or ginagamit lang ito, brackets, inclusive, kung ibig sabihin, kabilang yung number na yun sa solution set. And, gagamitin din itong brackets kung nakita nyo itong mga symbols ng equal, is less than or equal to, and we have is greater than or equal to. And doon naman sa graph, kapag nakita naman natin yung closed circle, gagamitin natin yung brackets. Pero kapag parenthesis naman, gagamitin natin to kung exclusive. The number is excluded. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya kabilang sa solution sets na given. And kung papansinin nyo, ang given na inequality ay gagamitan ng symbol na not equal, we have the is less than and greater than. Then, doon sa graph naman, ginagamitan naman siya ng open circle. So, yun yung pagkakaiba ng brackets and parentheses bilang interval notation symbols. So, mamaya gagamitin natin to in doing the solution sets or the sagot doon sa ating quadratic inequality. So, tandaan lagi ang pagkakaiba ng brackets sa parentheses. Magkaroon naman tayo ng exercise in writing the interval notation for each region in the number lines. So, kung maalala nyo, nung kayo ay grade 7, ginagamit natin itong number line. We have the 0, the positive number dito sa right side ng ating 0, and negative numbers naman sa left ng 0. So, we have the regions na tinatawag. Kung nagkaroon tayo ng 2 points, we have the negative 2 and 3. Magkakaroon tayo ng tatlong regions, which is nahati siya sa, we have region A, region B, and region C. So, ang mga region A ay napapabilang dito sa side na ito, region B dito naman, and region C sa side naman na ito. So, paano natin siya isusulat? Using the interval notation, using doon sa dalawang symbols na nakita natin kanina, the bracket and the parenthesis. Okay, so we have first, pag sinabing parenthesis, bakit parenthesis ang gagamitin natin una? We have, pansin nyo, gumamit tayo ng open circle, hindi siya shaded. Okay, so gagamit tayo ng parenthesis dito sa region A. Bakit? Tuwing may negative infinity o positive infinity, always nagkagamitin is parenthesis, hindi bracket. Kasi ibig sabihin tuloy-tuloy yan. Okay? Ibig sabihin, extended ito mula doon sa pinakadulong negative number. And next, pang napansin nyo, open circle yung ating 2 dito, ibig sabihin siya ay excluded. Hindi siya kabilang sa solution set. So, gagamit tayo ng parenthesis. Kapag open circle, that is parenthesis. So, we have negative infinity up to negative 2, pero open circle siya. Okay? Kaya, siya excluded. Hindi siya kabilang sa solution set. Next, with the region B, we have syempre ito ay open circle. So, ito ay parenthesis, negative 2, up to dito sa open circle ulit itong ating 3. So, gagamit tayo ng parenthesis. And with region C, mula naman sa 3 dito, dahil ito ay open circle, parenthesis siya. And sabi ko kanina, always gagamit tayo ng parenthesis kapag positive infinity. Ibig sabihin, tuloy-tuloy. So, ito yung mga interval notations ng ating regions. Okay? Paano naman kung meron tayong number line at ang given points ay mga shaded circles or closed circles? So, we have another region ulit. We have the A, B, and C. So, nahati ulit siya. So, we have, syempre, sabi ko nga, we're going to use the brackets dito sa mga shaded region na ito, or shaded circles, I should say. So, negative infinity, parenthesis pa rin ang gagamitin. Mula sa negative infinity up to dito sa negative 4. Bracket na ang ginamit ko dyan kasi siya ay closed circle. Next, for region B, so siyempre ito ay from negative 4, so shaded siya. So we have negative 4 bracket yung ginamit. And dito naman, shaded circle or closed circle, kaya from negative 4 up to 1, bracket na yung naka-enclose. Next, for region C, we have, okay, so shaded circle ulit to, we have to use bracket. And up to infinity or positive infinity, so gagamit pa rin tayo ng parenthesis. So, yun yung use ng bracket and parenthesis. So, yun yung difference nila para mas maintindihan nyo mamaya kapag tayo na ay mag-graph ng mga solution sets ng ating quadratic inequalities. So, let's proceed to these steps in solving a quadratic inequality. So, first, we're going to express the quadratic inequality as a quadratic equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, and then solve for x. So, from a quadratic inequality, babaguhin lang natin yung symbol from inequality symbol, gagawin natin siyang equal sign. And dapat naka-form siya ng standard form ng quadratic equation. Then, we're going to solve for x using the any method like factoring, completing the square, or quadratic formula. Next, locate the numbers found in step 1 on a number line. So, the number line will be divided into 3 regions katulad ng ginawa natin kanina. So, i-locate muna natin yung points na nakuha natin sa isang number line, then ma-divide itong number line sa 3 regions. Next, choose a test points each region and substitute the test region to the original inequality. So, kapag nakakuha na tayo ng regions, or kumbaga nahati na yung number lines into 3 regions, kukuha tayo ng test points, okay, sa bawat region, or test points na yun, ibig sabihin number siya dun sa isang region. Okay? If it's hold true, then the region belongs to the solution set. Otherwise, if it's not part of the solution set. Kapag kunyari, naging true siya, okay, na-satisfy niya yung statement natin, ibig sabihin, pasok siya doon sa solution set. Pero pag hindi, that represents a false. Okay? Hindi siya kabilang sa isang solution set ng ating quadratic inequality. Okay? So, itong ating mga steps na tatandaan na gagamitin natin in solving quadratic inequality. Let's apply these steps on our first example. We have x squared minus 6x plus 5 is less than 0. So, our first step is to change this quadratic inequality sa isang quadratic equation. So, magiging x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0. So, itong ating less than, naging equal sign muna. Okay? Para ma-solve natin yung value ng x. Okay? So, using the factoring method, so we have x minus 5 times the quantity of x minus 1 is equal to 0. So, paghihiwalay natin itong dalawang quantity, we will have x minus 5 is equal to 0, and to the other one is we have x minus 1 is equal to 0. So, solving the value of x in x minus 5 is equal to 0, lipat natin itong negative 5 sa right side ng ating equation. So, magiging x is equal to 5. Ganoon naman sa kabila, we have x is equal to 1. So, ito na ang ating gagamiting critical values or boundary points sa step 2, which is the graph na. Okay, so step 2, we're going to plot the points na dito sa ating number line. So, una, we have x is equal to 5. So, hanapin natin dito si 5 sa ating number line. So, ito siya. So, we have to use, anong gagamitin natin? Open circle. Okay, hindi siya closed circle or yung shaded circle. Kasi, ang ating originating quadratic inequalities ay gumamit ng less than. So, open circle. So, locate the 5. Gagamit tayo ng open circle. Then next, locate yung ating yung x is equal to 1. Dito sa ating number line, we have, okay, this one. The next, step 3. So, ito yung gagamit nating boundary points, okay? Or critical values. We have the 1 and 5. Proceed to step number 3. Okay, so we're going to find the 3 regions. We have the region, okay, mag-divide siya. We have the region A, B, and C. So, ilalagay natin siya dito, A. Kukuha tayo ngayon ng test points, which is makikita dito sa region A. So, hindi kabilang muna o hindi natin sasama yung ating critical values or yung boundaries. So, pipili na lang tayo from dito, 0 hanggang sa dulo, pwede, kahit ano. Nasa sa inyo yan kung ano ang gagamitin nyo, pero sa akin, ang gagamitin ko na lang ay yung 0 as a test point sa region E. So, we have x is equal to 0. Then, using this test point, by substituting this value of x sa ating quadratic inequalities. So, lahat ng x natin dito, papalitan ng 0. So, we have 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 5 is less than to 0. So, by simplifying this, so 0 squared, that is 0, minus 6 times 0, that is 0 again. So, magiging wala na itong value, maiiwan na lang si 5. So, 5 is less than 0. Is it true or false? Mas malaki ba si 5, ay mas maliit daw ba si 5 kaysa sa 0? So, that is false. So, false ng ating region A. So, hindi na ito kasama. Hindi na siya kabilang sa solution set. So, tanggal na yan. Next, let's proceed to region B. Okay, so pipili tayo ngayon ng test point from here to pwedeng 1.5, ganon, 2, 3, 4, hanggang dito. Kahit anong gusto nyo dyan, pwede. So, pipili na lang natin is x is equal to 2. So, substitute ulit natin itong 2 sa quadratic inequality natin. We have 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 5 is less than 0. So, simplifying, we have 4 minus 12 plus 5 is less than 0. Then, i-simplify natin ulit ito. Makukuha natin si negative 3 is less than 0. Okay, so negative 3 ba ay mas maliit sa 0? Okay, tandaan kapag negative numbers, mas malaki sa 0. Kaya this is true. Okay, so meron na tayong true dito. Ibig sabihin, kasama na ito sa solution set natin. How about sa region C? Okay, so ang kunin nating test point will be 6. Okay, so palitan natin lahat ng x sa ating quadratic inequality ng 6. We have 6 squared minus 6 times 6 plus 5 is less than 0. So 6 times squared, that is 36. 6 times 6, that is 36 again, plus 5 is less than 0. Then by simplifying this, we have 5 is less than 0. Is it true or false? That is false. So meaning to say, ang region B lang ang nag-true and all of this region A and C ay false. Kaya ang ating solution set ay manggagaling sa region B. So these are the values are included. So paano natin siya isusulat in set notation and interval notation? So that will be on our next slide. Okay, so puntahan natin. We have solution set. Okay, pag sinabing solution set, marami. Okay, hindi lang isa o dalawa. Pwedeng marami ito. Ang nilalaman ng ating solution. Okay, so tingnan natin. Magagaling lang sa letter B natin, sa region B. So our set notation will be like this. Okay, from paano siya basahin, ma'am? So that is x such that x is greater than 1 but less than 5. Okay, so hindi kasama si 1 and 5 bilang isang solution set. Okay, so pwedeng mas malaki sa 1 pero hindi lalampas sa 5. Okay, so our interval notation, sabi ko nga dahil ito ay open circle, gagamit tayo ng dalawang parentheses magkabilaan. So we have from the values of x are from 1 to 5. So, yan ang ating solution set sa ating first example na x squared minus 6x plus 5 is less than 0. So, let's proceed to our second example. So, we have x squared minus 2x minus 8 is greater than or equal to 0. So, our step 1 is papalitan natin yung inequality symbol ng equal sign. So, magiging x squared minus 2x minus 8 is equal to 0. So, using the factoring method, makukuha natin si quantity x minus 4 times to quantity x plus 2 is equal to 0. So, paghiwalay natin yung dalawang quantity, we will have x minus 4 is equal to 0 and we have x plus 2 is equal to 0. So, by solving the value of x, so makukuha natin dito ay x is equal to 4. And sa kabilang side naman, we will have x is equal to negative 2. So, to our step 2 naman, so ipa-plot naman natin itong mga points na ito sa ating number line. So, una muna, tignan natin kung anong gagamitin nating circle if it's open or closed. So, bumalik tayo sa ating original na inequality. So, ang ginamit dito is greater than or equal to. So, that will be closed circle. So, pansinin natin yung given. We have x is equal to 4 and x is equal to negative 2. So, ipaplot natin siya using the closed circle. So, ito ang ating value ng 4. Ito yung ating 4. And ito naman yung ating negative 2. So, this will be our boundary of points or the critical values. Okay, let's proceed to our step number 3. Okay, so ngayon, divide itong ating number line into 3 regions. We have A, B, and C. So, on our region A, pipili ako ng test point na negative 3. So, kayo ang bahala kung ano ang test point na kunin nyo sa bawat region. Okay, so okay lang yun. So, itong test point natin, sasubstitute ko sa given na quadratic inequalities. So, magiging negative 3 squared minus 2 times negative 3 minus 8 is greater than or equal to 0. So, isi-simplify ko lang ito. Makukuha natin si, so, negative 3 squared is 9. Negative 2 times negative 3 is 6. Then, copy natin the rest. So, isosolve natin to. Makukuha natin si 7. So, 9 plus 6, that is 15 minus 8, that is 7. So, 7 is greater than or equal to 0. So, 7 ba ay mas malaki sa 0? Is it true or false? So, that is true. Okay, how about our region B? So, again, pipili ulit tayo ng test point natin. So, ang napili ko ay 0. So, nandito siya sa region B. So, ipapalit natin itong 0 sa lahat ng x sa ating original inequality, quadratic inequality. So, magiging 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8 is greater than or equal to 0. So, kung ito ay 0 na, automatic is 0 na. Wala na siyang value yan. Then, ang maiwan na lang is negative 8 is greater than or equal to 0. Is it true or false na mas malaki ba si negative 8 sa 0? Of course not. So, that is false. So, ngayon, dumako naman tayo sa region C. Okay, so ang test point na napili natin ay x is equal to 5. So, ngayon, papalit lang natin yung 5 sa lahat ng value ng x natin dyan sa ating quadratic inequality. So, magiging 5 squared minus 2 times 5 minus 8 is greater than or equal to 0. So, isolve natin. Makukuha natin si 25. So, 5 squared yan. Negative 2 times 5, that is negative 10 minus 8. So, solve natin ulit. Makukuha natin si 7. Is 7 greater than or equal to 0? Yes, that is true. So, kung mapapansin nyo, meron tayong dalawang region na nag-true. That is region A and region C. So, meaning to say na lahat ng nasa region A ay solution set and also with region C. So, the values are included. So, gato ang kanyang graph. Okay? Okay, ngayon, isulat natin yung ating set notation and interval notation base dun sa ating nakuhang graph or sagot. So, we will have for our solution set notation. Okay, so ito siya. We have x such that x is less than or equal to negative 2 or x is greater than or equal to 4. And for our interval notation, dahil meron tayong dalawa region na graph, okay, that will be also dalawa din. So for region A, we have the values of x are from negative 2 to negative infinity. Yun, ibig sabihin pasasamahin ang dalawang region from 4 up to positive infinity. So, ganito siya kapag dalawa ang lumabas na true doon sa ating solution set. Okay? So, I hope na intindihan natin ang ating MELC 8, which is solve quadratic inequalities. Okay, we are down to our last MELC. Okay, our MELC number 9, which is solves problems involving quadratic inequalities. Okay, let's start. So first, alamin natin yung mga steps in solving problems involving quadratic inequality. So first, read and analyze the problem. So yun ang pinaka-importante. Okay, para mag-come up tayo ng equation or representation sa isang problem. Second, represent the unknown. Okay, tingnan natin kung ano yung hinahanap nga ba. Third, form quadratic inequality based doon sa nakuha nating or na-represent nating unknown. Fourth, we're going to solve for the roots or the critical values. Then next, make a table to test the possible values that will satisfy the problem. Okay, and last, write a conclusion. Okay, So, ito yung mga steps in solving a problem involving quadratic inequalities. Okay, i-apply natin ang following steps sa ating given example. So, gulayan sa paaralan in Barangay National High School inspires us to do gardening to help fight global warming and to ensure the availability of fresh vegetables for the conduct of feeding programs with the school that provided a lot area of approximately less than 130 square meter for the horticulture classes. The garden's length is 3 more than the width. Find all the possible dimensions of the garden. So first, okay, so let us represent, okay, ano nga ba yung hinahanap? Okay, so yung hinahanap natin is possible dimensions ng garden. So, given the length and width, okay, kasi ang hinahanap dito is a lot area, okay? We have the lot area approximate 130 square meter. Ang hinahanap is yung length and width ng ating garden. Okay, so magre-represent tayo ng x sa width of the garden kasi hindi natin alam kung ano ang width. So, we're going to represent x. And sabi niya, the garden's length is, sabi niya, ano nga ba? 3 meters more than the width. Ibig sabihin, mas malaki siya sa width ng 3 meters. So, we're going to represent x plus 3 equivalent to length. So, we're going to use this 2 to make a mathematical equation. Base naman doon sa a lot area of approximately less than 130 square meter. So, kung gagamitin natin ito, it's a rectangular area. So, the formula in finding the area of a rectangle is length times width. So, area is equals to length times width. Okay, so ngayon, this will be our mathematical equation. So, substitute natin yung gamit nating representation, which is sa ating width is x and our length is x plus 3 dito sa ating mathematical equation. So, our length will be x plus 3 and for our width is x. So, we're going to multiply this is less than the area which is given na 130 square meters. Okay, so we're going to solve this, okay, by distribution property. Makukuha natin is x squared, so x times x yan, then multiply naman natin yung susunod, 3x, okay, then equals 130. Bakit equals na, ma'am? Sabi nyo. So, pinalitan ko na siya agad base doon sa step 2 natin doon kanina sa MELC 8. Okay, ginawa ko na siyang quadratic equation. Next, ayusin natin siya in standard form. So, dapat ang equate natin siya sa 0. So, magiging x squared plus 3x. So, yung ating 130 dito, okay, nilipat sa kabila kaya naging negative 130 or minus 130 equals 0. So, we're going to solve this using the factoring method. So, nakuha natin si x plus 13 times the quantity of x minus 10 is equal to 0. So, paghiwalayin natin ulit, makukuha natin si x plus 13 is equal to 0 and kapag sinolve natin yung value nito, makukuha natin sa x is equal to negative 13. Sa kabila naman, we have x minus 10 is equal to 0. Then, solving for x, that will be x is equal to 10. So, this will be our boundary points or the critical values na gagamitin mamaya. Okay, next. So, gamitin natin yung original quadratic inequality which is x plus 3 times the quantity x is less than 130, which is makikita natin to or magagamit natin to in substitution ng mga test points natin. So, ito ay madi-divide. So, ilocate natin sa negative 13 using the open circle kasi ito ay less than ito ating original inequality. And yung ating 10 naman dito sa side na ito. Okay, so mahahati na itong ating number line sa 3 regions. We have A, B, and C. So ngayon, pili tayo ng critical test point sa region A. So, ang pili natin ay negative 14 for region A. For B naman, that is 0. And for region C, we have 11. So, palitan natin lahat ng value ng x dito, isa-isa, gamit yung test points natin. Unahin natin sa negative 14. So, if x is equal to negative 14, so we will get negative 14 plus 3 times negative 14 is less than 130. So, by simplifying this, magiging negative 11 times negative 14. So, makukuha natin si positive 154 is less than 130. Is it true or false? Okay, that is false kasi mas malaki daw si 130 kaysa kay 154. That is false. How about if our x is equal to 0? So, palitan lang natin ulit yung value ng x dito ng 0. Okay, so 0 plus 3 times 0 is less than 130. So, simplify, we will get 3 times 0. So, again, multiplying these two, makukuha natin si 0 is less than 130. Is it true or false? Siyempre, that is true. Kasi mas malaki naman talaga si 130 kaysa kay 0. So, next, how about if our x is equal to 11? Okay, so ang value ng ating x, papalitan natin ng 11. Magiging 11 plus 3 times 11 is less than to 130. So, simplifying, makukuha natin si 14 times 11. So, will result to 154 is less than to 130. So, this is false. So, ang region B lang ang nag-true or satisfy ang condition. Okay, so, this is the graph. Okay, so, para natin siya isusulat in set notation or interval notation. Okay, so, makukuha natin ang x such that the value of our x is less than or hindi bababa ng negative 13 at hindi rin tataas ng 10. At ang interval notation natin is from negative 13 to 10. Next, so gagamitin natin yung ating representation kanina, which is the width of the garden is x and the length of the garden is x plus 3. Okay, kung ngayon, titignan natin kung ito ba ay pasok sa ating condition. So, i-check natin. Kuha tayo ng mga values dito sa region B kung ito ba ay pasok doon sa possible dimension ng ating length and width ng ating garden. Okay, so tingnan natin. So, ang ating original quadratic inequality is x plus 3 times x is less than 130. Ang ating interval notation na nakuha is the value of our x is from negative 13 to 10. Pero, sabi ko nga, ang kinukuha natin is dimension, possible dimensions ng isang garden. Tandaan, okay, gagawin ko siyang ang interval notation niya is from 1 to 10. Bakit? Kasi there is no negative dimension. Wala namang negative 13 meters. Wala namang negative 1 meters. 1 meter, okay? Kaya ang gagamitin lang natin is from 1 to 10. Okay? So, excluded na yung negative 13 hanggang 0. Ang tawag doon ay extraneous solution. Okay? So, ngayon, from 1 to 10, yun ang gagamitin nating mga points na pag-check kung tama ba or pwede ba maging possible dimension nito bilang makakabuo ba ng area ng isang rectangle. Okay, so using the width dito sa ating original quadratic inequality, which is x, ang ating length naman is x plus 3, and if we're going to multiply this, that will be the area. So dapat hindi lalampas ng 130 square meters. Okay, so if our width is 1, okay, syempre ang length natin will be x plus 3, that is 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. So that will be possible. Pwede siya, pasok siya. How about if our width is 2? Okay, so palitan natin ulit yung x natin ng 2. So 2 plus 3, that will be 5. So 2 times 5, that is length times width, 10. Okay, so 10 is less than 130 pa rin. So possible siya maging dimension ng ating garden. Kasi ang kailangan lang daw dapat hindi lalampas ng 130. So pwede yan na maging sukat ng garden natin. Next, if our width is 9. Okay, if our width is 9, then our length will be 9 plus 3. Okay, kasi nga mas malaki yung length ng tatlo eh. So that will be 12. So if we're going to multiply 9 times 12, okay, makukuha natin si 108. Okay, pasok pa rin siya doon sa maximum na area ng ating garden, which is 130. So possible pa rin siya. What if pag 10? Okay, so if our width is 10, syempre mas malaki yung length ng tatlo, so that will be 13. So 10 times 13, that is 130. Sabi, dapat hindi lalampas ng 130. Dapat mas mababa sa 130. Dapat 129, gano'n, o 129.5. Okay. Pero, sumakto siya ng 130. So, hindi siya possible dimension ng ating garden. Therefore, the possible dimensions of our rectangular garden are 1 meter by 4 meters, 2 meters by 5 meters, okay, hanggang, okay, 9 meters by 12 meters. So, yun yung ating possible dimension. So, mula sa width na 1 hanggang width na 9 meters, and ang ating maximum na length naman from 4 meters hanggang 12 meters. Okay? So, I hope naintindihan natin yung problem solving using or involving the quadratic inequalities. Okay, so that's the end of our module 4 entitled Quadratic Inequalities composed of 3 MELCs. So I hope may natutunan kayo at magamit ninyo upang masagutan ang inyong mga worksheets and modules. Okay, so before I end this, okay, keep in mind na alam naman natin na hindi patas, okay, ang mundo. May mahirap, may mayaman, may babae, may lalaki, may mga iba nakapag-aral sa private school, sa public school, yung iba may sasakyan, yung iba naglalakad lang. Hindi pantay-pantay. Doon po pasok yung inequality sa buhay ng isang tao. Pero hindi yun nasusukat, hindi naman ibig sabihin na inequality na ay may mas lamang na dapat or kailangan ng apakan ng mas mayaman yung karapatan ng mga mahihirap. So, ganun din dun sa tinatawag na gender equality. Hindi ibig sabihin na ikaw ay babae, ay mas mahina ka na. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na ikaw ay lalaki, ikaw naman ay mas malakas na. So, kahit iba-ibang kasarian natin, okay, meron namang bi, meron namang lesbian, or gay, lahat tayo ay pantay-pantay sa lipunan na ating ginagalawan ngayon. So, dapat i-embrace natin itong equality. Okay? Yun yung kabaliktaran naman ng inequality na pag-aralan natin kanina. Na dapat sa lipunan natin, hindi natin tinitignan o nililabel yung kasarian ng isang tao. Dapat tinitignan natin to sa roles na ginagampanan natin, responsibilities natin, yung rights natin, and yung syempre respect sa bawat isa. So importante itong 4 R's na iiwan ko sa inyo dahil bawat tao ay may kanya-kanyang roles, okay? May kanya-kanyang responsibilities na ginagampanan sa lipunan, at lahat tayo ay may karapatan, okay? So isa na roon yung karapatang mabuhay, may karapatan ding makapag-aral, may karapatan, maraming ibang rights, okay? So lahat ng yon may kaakibat din na respeto sa bawat isa. So hindi kailangang magpahiya ng iba dahil sa kanyang kasarian o ano man siya sa lipunan, pero dapat irespeto natin kung ano siya bilang isang tao, okay? Dahil sa paningin ng Diyos, tayo ay pantay-pantay, okay? So yun lang mga anak. So kita-kita ulit tayo sa susunod na video. So I hope may natutunan kayo ngayon bago sa aking video lesson. So kita-kita ulit. Goodbye. See you!